everyone, it's Mrs. Mahlstedt. So today is day one of our very first experiment, and it is our gummy bear experiment. Now remember, if you don't have everything at home, you can follow along with me on the video and use what I find out are my data as your data as you start working through the lab report. If you have everything at home and you're going to do the experiment on your own, you either can just do the lab on your own, or maybe you want to follow along with the video so that way you know you're doing all the steps correctly. Now, the first thing I like to do when I'm doing a lab is to read through my lab, the steps, and make sure I have all the materials. So I actually printed out my lab report. You guys probably have it downloaded into Notability. That's the perfect spot for it. So I'm going to take a look and make sure I have everything that I need. So I need gummy bears, which I have. I need tap water, which I'll just walk over and grab from my sink. I have salt to mix my own salt water. I didn't have any tape to label my cups, so I found some note cards at home. So if you don't have tape, you guys can improvise and use something else. Distilled water, so I had a bottle of water out my garage, so I grabbed that. I'm using some glasses today instead of plastic cups, and that's okay. I have my ruler because I'm going to need to measure and do some measurements. And then I have my markers so I can mark my different cups. So I have everything I need. So our Gummy Bear Lab is going to be broken up into 2 days. So we're just going to do day one today. So let's take a look. So our big question, or our guiding question for our experiment is, how is a gummy bear affected by soaking it in different types of water? So that's why I'm going to use sink water, make some salt water, and use some bottled water because they're all different. And we're going to come up with a hypothesis and figure out if the gummy bear will or will not be affected based on the different types of soaking water. So before we even get started, in the first box it asks for your hypothesis. Now remember, this is what you think is going to happen during the experiment. Remember, it's okay if in the end your hypothesis is wrong, because that means we still learned something today. So I'm going to go ahead and write in what my hypothesis is. So you want to think, will the gummy bear be affected by soaking in different types of water, or will it not be affected by soaking in different types of water? If you still need a minute to write down your hypothesis, you can pause the video now and start up when you're ready. All right, so I'm going to read through my procedure before I even start, so that way I can make sure that I know what's going to happen next. It's kind of like when you guys are making a recipe, maybe you're making cookies at home. You should read through all the directions first so you know what to do next. So let's take a look. Our first step is working with a partner. You guys are probably at home, so don't worry about the partner. Number 2, you'll be testing the gummy bears in 3 different types of water: tap, salt, and distilled, which is what I have. We're going to use our marker to label a piece of tape on each cup, or label a napkin that you place in front of each cup with the names and with your name and the type of water. Now if you're at home, you probably don't need to add your name to it. We're going to fill each cup to the rim with the correct type of water. We're going to record our qualitative observations of our gummy bears in our data section, so that's on another page. We're going to use our ruler to find the length of our gummy bears in millimeters, and we're going to record the length in our data chart. Again, that's on another page. We're going to record the length of all the other gummy bears in our water type groups. Then we're going to place the gummy bears in our cups of water, and we're going to let them soak overnight. So that's where we're going to stop tonight, but I'm going to keep reading to see what's going to happen tomorrow. So after I soak overnight, I'm going to make some more qualitative observations in that data section. And then I'm going to carefully take my gummy bears out of the water and place on a paper towel. Then I'll use my ruler to find the length in millimeters, and I'm going to record my data. And then I'm going to record the average data for each type of water. And so that's all part of our lab report. And then there will be some questions at the end to help us reflect on what we've done. So let's get started right away. The first thing I'm gonna do is get my water ready. I am just going to use probably about a cup and a half, maybe 2 cups of water in my cup, so because I don't want to overfill or overflow it. I'm actually going to start with 1, so I'm going to measure it out, and that's about on the line. So I'm going to put this in here and see how that looks. Oh yeah, I think 1 cup of water is going to be fine. Once I fill it up, I want to label it right away so I remember what type of water it was. So this was my bottled water or my distilled water. So I'm going to label that. So I labeled it as my bottled water or my distilled water. So I'm going to put that right in front so I don't forget. Next, I am going to do my tap water. So I'm going to use the same measuring cup. Just going to grab some water from the sink. They feel about the same temperature. So this is going to be my tap water. So I'm going to pour that in there. And again, I'm going to label my sheet of paper so I remember what it is. Tap water. And then this will be my salt water. Now I have to make my own salt water, just like you're going to have to make your own salt water. So to make your salt water, I am going to use pure water. I'm not going to pull it from my tap. I'll keep using this one. So I'm going to fill this up to 1 cup. And then I need to mix in 1 tablespoon of salt. So I have my measuring spoon. I'm going to put my salt right in there. Get a nice good tablespoon and dump it in. Then I'm going to mix it up the best I can. So this will take about 30 seconds, maybe a minute to get that salt water mixed in. But I didn't want to put this in here right away because I didn't want to have salt end up in any of the other cups. All right. So now I'm going to pour my salt water right into this cup. There's some extra salt. There we go. All right. So I have my 3 different cups of water. So now we're on step number 5. I need to record my qualitative observations of my gummy bears. So I'm actually going to choose to use the same color gummy bear just because that's what I want to do. If you want to use different colors, you can, but I'm going to use the same colors. So I picked out some, oops. I'm going to pick out my gummy bears. Now remember, your qualitative observations, those are things like, what does it look like? What does it feel like? Smell like? We're not going to taste them because we're going to use them in an experiment. So I don't want to be licking them before I put them in because that could alter my results. So I'm going to, on page 2 of our lab report is where our data table is. And so I'm going to pull this up and I am going to grab my camera and I'm going to zoom in on the gummy bears so you guys can see them. So give me just 1 second. All right, so here are our 3 gummy bears. And like I said, I picked the same color. So you're going to make some qualitative observations on what the gummy bears look like. So I will put that one with that one. There we go. All right, so our first one we're going to look at is our tap water gummy bear. And the tap water gummy bear is going to be this middle gummy bear. So looking at it, what are some observations you can make? And maybe you can compare it to the other ones. So you're going to look at this one right here in the middle. What are some observations you can make about this gummy bear? And if you'd like to pause the video, you guys can do so now. All right, so I'm going to make some observations about the gummy bear. And you guys can't smell it, but I think it smells sweet. So I'm going to add that in. It smells sweet. And then if I squeeze it, it's squishy, but it's not super squishy. So that's going to be my tap water gummy bear. Next, let's take a look at our saltwater gummy bear, which is going to be this one right here on our left. So looking at it compared to the other one, how does it look? Oops, sorry guys, I keep moving. Maybe what color, size. If you need another minute, you can pause. Now I'm going to take a look at this gummy bear. This is the one that I'm going to put in my distilled water or into my bottled water. So how does this one look? What are some observations you can make about this one? And again, I can squeeze it for you guys. It's squishy, but it's not super soft. I've noticed that it's a little bit of a darker color than the other ones. All right, so your data table should look something like this now. I just have the before column filled in because after is going to be when I come back and take a look at them tomorrow. Now, sorry guys, I dropped my pen. Ugh. So now before we can put them in the water, we have to measure them. Now in science, we always measure in millimeters. So taking a look at your ruler, you guys probably have maybe a standard 12-inch ruler at home. We're not going to be using the inch side. I want to flip it over and we're going to be using the side that says centimeters. Now every little dash, so let me use my pen to show you, every little dash like that, that is our millimeter. There are 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter, so there's 10 little dashes. So we need to measure out our gummy bears. So we're going to start with our tap water gummy bear, and I'm going to try to get the ruler to stay still. So I'm going to put my gummy bear right up here, and I'm going to make sure, now remember, we start measuring at this line. We don't start measuring at the end because the end is going to give us the wrong measurements. So I'm going to hold this here, and you guys can pause and see how many millimeters this bear is. Now remember, if it's at the one that's 10 millimeters, that's 20, 21, 22, 23, looks like about 24 millimeters to me. And that's going to be our tap water one. So I'm going to come back to my lab report, and I'm going to look in this part where it says gummy bear length in millimeters. And I was looking at my tap water gummy bear, and that was 24 millimeters. And I want to label that so that way I remember that I did it in millimeters. So let's put this one back, and let's measure our distilled water gummy bear first. And I'm going to get them lined up super quickly. There we go. So there is our distilled water gummy bear. So remember, the one is 10 millimeters. We're at 20, 21. I'm going to say it's probably about 22 millimeters. So then I'm going to come over here, look for my distilled water. That's my bottled water gummy bear spot. And I'm going to put 22 millimeters. I'm going to put them back. And then finally we need to measure our saltwater gummy bear. So I'm going to set him right there and line him up the best I can. And let's take a look. looking at my gummy bear, I can see that he's 10 millimeters, and he looks like he's right on about that 20 millimeter mark. So I'm going to come back to my data table and fill in 20 millimeters. So now that we've got our qualitative data and our quantitative data, the next thing we need to do is put them in the water. So now that we have our data table filled out, it is time for us to move on to step number 8, because number 5 was to measure it out, and step number 7 was to record those in our data table. So we're on step number 8. We are going to be placing them in the water, and we're going to leave them overnight. So I'm going to put my water bottle gummy bear in. I'm going to take my tap water gummy bear, throw him in, and I'm going to take my saltwater gummy bear and throw him in. And I'm going to take a look at the time, and it's about 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, so I probably won't take a look at them again until Sunday afternoon. But I am going to write on my lab report just what time I put them in. That just helps me remember to give them a little bit of time tomorrow to finish soaking. So I'm going to leave them here. We'll meet back again tomorrow, and we'll take a look and see what happened to our gummy bears overnight, and we're going to make some new measurements and see what the difference was, and see if maybe our hypothesis was right. So I'll see you guys back here tomorrow. If you need to go back and see some steps that we were working on, feel free to do that, and we will meet back here tomorrow and see what happens.